When I first came across Keytamine's trailer, I was immediately drawn to its ASMR, oddly satisfying video aesthetic, where every time you cause some damage, there's a ripple effect of all the different keyboard keys that are rippling out beautifully in front of your eyes. This game, though, is not relaxing and it is not ASMR. It is highly stressful, and whilst it is a clicker roguelike, or a clicker action roguelike, should I say, it never plays like it and feels like it at any point during your gameplay, because where this game is very precise, it forces you to have to reprioritize constantly which threat is going to kill you next. And so it feels far more involved than any other clicker action roguelike that I've come across in recent memory, and it feels genuinely quite unique to play. Keytamine kicks you off by asking you to choose an aesthetic from the ones that you've unlocked so far throughout the game, and then a chaos level. And the chaos level predetermines what type of enemies you're going to have to battle against, and what type of variable extra keys you're going to have spawn up across your run. The higher the chaos level, the longer the run, the harder and more complicated the level is going to be. But also, the faster everything moves around. And so your keys will move on themselves and kind of scatter around, a little bit like a fuzzy DNA chain kind of spewing out everywhere. But your finger still has to try and catch up with what you want to do and click on it to cause a damage. Now, your finger at the start of the game will only click one key with one damage, and then it will spawn out orbs once you've killed a key to gain XP and level up. When you level up, you can then choose from a variety of different upgrades that you'll unlock through meta progression to then make your key stronger. Now, that could be that you then do one key to the side, or one key vertically up and down, or it could be that you then do a ripple effect that goes diagonal as opposed to vertical and horizontal, or it could be that there's a random chain tail that will fly off from you, or it could be that there's a triple attack that happens on a very specific key, or a little random one gets hit. All of this is part of what you unlock and the order that you do unlock them on. And you're kind of gated into how stilted you can make a build, because when you upgrade one of your attacks, or the speed of an attack, it then locks it out for the next few upgrades. So you have to kind of do things relatively in tandem. This means that you will have to have eyes like hawks to be able to catch what's coming up next, because this game likes to throw hidden variables at the corners of the map for you to try and work out how to kill. Now, this game is quite rhythmic, and down in the bottom right hand corner of the screen there's a 4-key beat that's going on, and whenever you reach the 4th key of the beat, it will then do damage, and that damage is complicated in the way how it's calculated. But it's calculated based on how many keys are available still in the level that you've not got rid of, but also different types of enemies produce additional damage. So there'll be a 1-star, 2-star, 3-star enemy kind of stomping around, and they need to be killed, but they'll actually give cumulative damage on top of themselves as well. On top of that, you might have wizards that will spawn out, and these are little hidden ones that will then conjure additional enemies around you, and later on in the game you'll get like meta wizards that will then conjure more wizards around them, and it becomes an exponential spilling over of just enemies everywhere for you to try and mitigate. Alongside that, you'll have keys that will become boxes or stone walls that require even more keys and damage and hits and clicks to get rid of, but they'll also not move sometimes, and so that then starts to railroad enemies into specific areas, which might sometimes be helpful, but often is a hindrance. On top of that, you'll have things that will generate smoke around to kind of spook out your vision so that you can't see what's really going on underneath the smoke. So you might need to prioritize that to see where the enemies are. Or it could be that you've got some priests that pop out that will then protect some of the enemies that cause you damage, and so you need to kill the priests first before you kill the enemies. All of this loops in really well together to create a very tricky prioritization tree for you to work out what's causing you the most problems and is going to kill you next. To help you out, there are bombs, there are energy cores, there are also vendors where you can spend some of your meta progression coins to then try and survive a level. And there's also medikits that will sometimes spawn out too. But you're going to have to grind through the meta progression overworld upgrade system to make sure that you can stay afloat, because particularly from chaos level 6 and 7 onwards, this game has massive jumps in difficulty that will see you, what initially felt like quite a I can get through it by skill and skill alone start of the game, becomes just exponentially overwhelmed, and there are big cliff edges in terms of difficulty that, whilst I would appreciate it would be better if they were smoothed out, does mean that you then have to be forced to utilise your skill tree and do repeated runs, which is quite cool because then you get to see what chaos looks like in all of the different aesthetics that you've unlocked previously that you might not be going back to time and time again. This never felt like a clicker action roguelike to me, ever, when I was playing it. This felt like a juggling of priorities and trying to work out where do I go next and what do I try and get rid of. For me, getting the wizards out of the way before they conjure tons of enemies was crucial, but also getting rid of those priests, because you can't damage anything that's damaging you if they're busy putting a little haloed lasso shield around all of your enemies. And you're thinking, oh no, what do I do? And the big thing here is that your attacks can only really be truthfully hugely upgraded during each run. So you'll need to also prioritise how to level up in XP faster and things like that to really make it to the end as best as possible. Which kind of leads me to the recommendation of Keytamine, because I think if you're looking for something that is an action roguelike that's heavily skill dependent, this will scratch an itch, but it does have massive cliff edges in locking you out later in the game, which will require you to grind. And so if you don't mind that so much, then Keytamine would be a definite recommendation if you're enjoying action roguelikes that do something different. However, if you don't like being railroaded into cliff edges on purpose to force you to meta progress, then Keytamine might not be one for you, particularly because you can see the end of the road of your run coming often quite quickly. And so you'll know that you're just there farming coins, and that feels, in my day and age, a little bit time wastery, even if you're enjoying the grind to some degree. I'd like it to be a little bit less in your face, that you're just going to blatantly fail and you're just grinding so that you can get the next upgrade, if that makes sense. However, nothing plays like this in an action roguelike setting. And nothing feels like this in the action roguelike setting. And so props to the developer, Nabokov, who has done an excellent job crafting something new in what is already a very populated genre. So from that perspective, take a look at Keytamine. I think it might scratch an itch for some of you.